Money is a complex subject in the fact that people have really strong feelings about it. No matter how you feel about the subject, money is a core part of life and that's just the reality we all live in. As dads, one of the biggest things we worry about all the time is money. How do we make enough money? How do we have enough money? Where's the money coming from? I think every father in the world probably worries about money nonstop. Regardless of how you feel about money personally, it impacts your life and that of your children. But money is not the issue. The real issue is our relationship with money and how that relationship will impact your children's relationship with money in the future. Today, we're talking to father of seven, Matt Morizio, who's a financial advisor, about our relationship with money and how that relationship with money will impact our kids going forward and how to change that conversation to help them build a positive relationship with money starting pretty early in their life. Matt's got a great dad story for us real quick, and then we're going to jump to our sponsor, and then we'll dig into this conversation for dads with Matt Morizio. So Matt, every dad has that story that just, you remember it, and it might be good, it might be bad, but it puts a smile on your face when you think about it because it was just one of those experiences. What is your dad story?
Man, as a dad of seven, there are so many stories that I could probably pull from. Some funny, some inappropriate. I'm going to have to go with the very first moment of being a dad. My first son, who's now 13, when he was born, as he's coming out, they were like, you could see hair, and that one rocked me. But I would say the first moment that he came out was like this overwhelming feeling of responsibility and gratitude and joy beyond belief, right? So I remember seeing that. And then I remember, so this is the funny part of that story. Then I remember looking in the delivery room, and everybody tells you all the things about when you're going to be a dad. Oh, good luck, get your sleep now. You better like coffee, they give you all kinds of warnings. Well, nobody warned me that the delivery room's going to look like World War II and like a bomb scene. Like there was blood everywhere. I was like, Doc, she going to be all right? Like, am I going to do this thing alone? And apparently that just loss of blood is a very normal thing. Like that's just a normal amount of blood. But I was very unprepared for that. And I guess that was a great start into the unpreparedness of what is fatherhood.
New dads always, I love to talk to first time expectant dads because nobody tells you that crap in the birthing classes or your friend.
There's blood everywhere.
Dude, the delivery is not fun.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to have to
see the great movies, right? You see the great movies and but they don't show you that part.
Right. It's like the baby on the chest, and it's so sweet and loving, and everybody's feeling great, happy. Nobody said it's like a crime scene.
Now, for all the expectant dads, it is a little, but it is worth it because they put that baby in your arms and you're just instantly in love.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little shocking if you're not expecting the ick that comes with it.
Exactly.
Gentlemen, I sleep on a MyPillow. I sleep on MyPillow Giza sheets with MyPillow body pillow. I have MyPillow towels. My wife has MyPillow slippers. We have MyPillow products everywhere. We all have MyPillow travel pillows, and I absolutely love them. Guys, I would never recommend a company to you that I don't use. We're proud to have Mike Lindell and MyPillow as sponsors for this show. You can go to mypillow.com and use the code TFM. I know, super complicated. Our parent company, The Fallible Man. Code TFM for up to 80% off all your orders and free shipping over $75 for our listeners. Plus, MyPillow is constantly running promotions just for our audience. You can go to mypillow.com, use code TFM, and not only do you get the normal up to 80% off on any day of the week, they also have all kinds of promotions. Like right now, you get any size, any color, MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets, $49.98. Guys, I sleep on these sheets every night. I have extra sets of these sheets. These are some of the nicest sheets I've ever had. And right now, for a very limited time, they're on sale for $49.98 using our promo code TFM. So go get your sheets now, support an amazing company, and every purchase, guys, you help keep this podcast on the air and make it possible for us to do these shows. So thank you in advance. You're helping two great companies and you're helping keep your favorite podcasts on air. Now, we heard a great story from Matt. Let's jump back to this episode because, guys, changing the conversation about money for your kids, it's going to be big. Welcome to the Dad Hat Shenanigans Podcast, the unfiltered truth about being a dad. Real dads, real stories, unfiltered, candid conversations about fatherhood. I'm your host, Brent Allen, and today my special guest is Matt Morizio. Matt, welcome to the Dad Hat Shenanigans Podcast.
Thank you for having me. Psyched to be on this. It's a real honor.
Now, right off the bat, I got to ask about the dad hat because you are wearing a very unique hat. I don't even know exactly what this is. So I'm excited to hear, what is the dad hat explanation for what you're wearing today?
Man, well, this is a cool idea. This is actually a skull cap. You can hear it. It's hard. It's a catcher's skull cap. So this is the logo of Wilmington Blue Rocks. This was my catcher's skull cap way back in the day. A million years ago, I played minor league baseball in the Kansas City Royals farm system. And not that that is who I am, but I look back on those years, those 5 seasons that I played in the Royals farm system, and only now, in the rearview mirror, can I see those seasons of life and say, man, I can attribute so much of who I am to what I learned while I was going through what I went through playing ball in the middle of nowhere, America. And really, it wasn't like on the diamond, it was everything around, like the adversity and the figuring your life out and being plopped in a place where you've never been and trying to understand how to make life happen there. Like, there's so much of it. And now I'm able to not just pass the baseball stuff on, but like I'm passing so many of my wirings and life lessons on to my kids. So and I will say that my whole life as a baseball player, I was a pitcher and a shortstop. And it wasn't until college I converted to catcher. I never caught in my life. But then I ended up playing all 4 years of college at Northeastern in Boston and then professionally as a catcher. So it also is representative of being willing to jump into the deep end, even if you don't know what's going on. Because for me, I would say the coolest things in life, the most impactful things in life have happened when I've taken those almost blind leaps of faith to say, all right, well, I think I'm ready for this moment, but I'm not so sure, but here we go.
All right. I dig it. I played catcher in softball in junior high. So I'm my knees.
Same thing.
So my knees are just aching. Oh, that flexible. My knees did not like, combined with wrestling at the time, like it just drilled me.
Yeah.
How tall are you, out of curiosity?
6'2".
6'2" catcher. Wow.
I know. I know. Usually you think like a short, stocky guy. I'm like more long and lanky.
Right? Yeah. It's not what you would expect at all.
I know.
Matt, tell us, you got 7 kids. First, hats off, quite literally. That's 7 kids. You got your hands full, bro.
Yeah, you're right.
So tell us about you, right? You used to play ball, but tell us about you.
Yeah, well, I would say the most important piece of my life is my faith. It really is my guiding light for everything all the decisions I make and all the directions I go and everything that's really matters to me. And that's something I learned over the years, really in baseball, actually in these 5 seasons when I was playing. I really leaned into my faith and understood and grew it then. But that is the guiding principle. Then I guess maybe I'm simple-minded, but I really do a good job compartmentalizing my life. And I really look at my life in really 4 pillars: faith, in this order: faith, family, fitness, and then finance. And I'm not the first to think of that. I just have heard it, and I grabbed it because I'm like, this works for me. This makes sense for me. But yes, I played ball professionally. Got out of college and immediately we got pregnant while I was couch surfing, trying to find a home because I got released, which is the baseball term of being fired. So I wasn't planning to have to go home, to not be playing. So we had to find a place to live. We had just gotten married. And while we were trying to figure out where we were going to be, we got pregnant. with our first, and that story happens over and over for multiple times. We got twins in there. Um, I got a sales job right after that because I had to earn money for the family. And eventually, in a bunch of the meetings I had in that sales job, my former managers and bosses of the founders of the old firm I used to work for, they met me and said, do you want to get in wealth management? I think you'd be really good. Fast forward nearly a decade after that meeting or more, here I am running my own investment management firm, financial planning firm, and I'm 7 kids. I moved from Boston to Charleston. So there's been so many twists and turns that I couldn't cover possibly in this quick answer. But yeah, man of faith, family, fitness, finance, in that order. And if things aren't going well in life, I always can kind of go back to that to see where am I out of whack.
So what's the ratio of boys and girls? You 7 kids.
4 boys, 3 girls. Yet the last one tipped the scale. So boys rule, girls drool in my house.
I'm surrounded by women, so I've got 2 daughters, but my mom lives with us. I got 4 women in the house and me.
So, oh my gosh.
I'm always at a disadvantage, except right now they're daddy's girls pretty well. So
that's sweet.
A little bit of, yeah.
Having a daughter is special.
It's funny, the differences between boys and girls, right? I had a coworker I worked with actually across 2 different companies, 2 different sites. And when I first met him, he was a young guy. He was just out of school. And, we'd start talking about fatherhood, like me and some of the other guys who had kids. And like, he just kind of slink away, right? Then he got serious and met an amazing young woman. And I watched them get serious and then get married. Mm-hmm. And we changed companies we were working for, still working together. And he became a dad, right? And overnight, I watched this miraculous change from a guy who never wanted, like, that's right? We don't want to talk about that kind of stuff, to this very open, mature. Like, he started actually like picking the brains of his coworkers. And we had one meeting one day. We got to the end of the meeting. He's like, "Hey, Brent, can I ask you?" Yeah, what's up, man? And he started, it's like parenting questions, and he asked the other parents in the room. It's like,
wow,
it was cool to see. But then his first one was a boy. And then one day I came in and he looked like he was going to die, like just grave, right? Pale. I was like, "Yo, what's up, brother?" He's like, "How do you sleep at night?" Dude, you're going to have to give me a little context in that, right? And he's like, "My wife's pregnant again." I was like, "Dude, congratulations. That's amazing." He's like, it's a girl. I was like, "Oh, okay. That explains all the context right there." Right? The boy was rough and tumble. The minute he found out I said, "Your whole world just changed, huh?" He's like, "Dude, I can't even look at women the same way." I was like, "Nope. And you never will again." Like, it's
for the better.
Start thinking about that being someone's daughter.
No doubt.
It's amazing, that mental shift for between boys and girls. It cracks me up.
So good.
So you do finance now?
Yeah. So personal finance, investing, financial planning, really helping people get some clarity on what's happening in their bank accounts, with their investment accounts, like, and more importantly, how do you make that go to where you want to go to?
Okay. That's cool. A lot of us can use help in that. I know that's a lacking area in my expertise.
That's funny.
So you've got 7 kids. You got to have some dad jokes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know that for sure my kids would for sure tell me that I always tell the dad jokes. But I was thinking about, I have a dad, more like a dad story from the weekend. With 7 kids, obviously our time is pretty split, divided. Attention is hard to come across. So I was really having a hard time connecting with my wife over the weekend. So I did what I thought any experienced husband would do. I sat on the couch and put my feet up, and within minutes we were having a beautiful conversation. It was great. There you go. Here's my dad joke for you.
We got to work on your dad jokes, man. You got 7 kids. You got to bring that game up, dude.
You're
I,
right. I gotta.
I made Christian
I know.
Bale jokes last week. Come on.
I know. It's pretty terrible. But I
I,
guess that's the point.
I shared my daughter helps me because my dad jokes suck. Like dad jokes are so in the moment. Like so many dad jokes are just like that in the moment kind of thing, right? So my daughter actually got me a book of jokes when I started doing the show.
Oh, that's awesome.
She's like, "You need help."
That's really good. Yeah. Well, maybe you can just show me that again after, and I can take a
I'll see
snapshot
you
of that.
on camera, right?
Exactly. That's, I need that.
So Matt, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, man, for me, my latest passion, what I'm most passionate about now, I would say in my life, is really helping people transform their relationships with money.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it with my kids. Well, I am doing it with my kids in the form of teaching them. We homeschool. So we have this thing called Money Mondays. And I'm really teaching them everything that I wish I knew as a kid and all of the things I'm learning in the thousands of conversations I've had with people about their money. All of the things that I'm learning are really the heavy weighted conversations, stress filled conversations people are having. Because I would argue outside of health, finances is probably the biggest burden that couples have, the biggest burden dads carry or providers, whoever they are, often they're dads. So if I can help people figure out how that game of money works, starting with my kids, because I don't think there's any more important ministry than the ones at our home. Like if I can help them figure out the game of money, I know firsthand that as I've learned the rules of the game, basically, as I've understood how it works, understood how to look at money for what it is, just a store of value, and if I can exchange enough value, I'll get paid money in return, and use some of like the pieces of finance as their chess pieces on the chessboard. Now, I no longer am attaching my emotions to money as much, and firsthand, like I've experienced my entire life change as my relationship with money has changed. So that's really what I'm most passionate about because I recognize that emotional change, that emotional shift spills over in all the important things of people's lives, from parenting to being more present with their spouse to getting better at their fitness and being able to do the things they want to with their money because they figured it out. Maybe like they plug some of the holes that are, leaking gas or whatever. So I would love to help anybody, any of your audience that's listening that thinks that, hey, money is a back burner thing that I know I need to address that I'm not. I would be honored to just serve them however I can today.
Awesome. Well, you know what? I can certainly light these questions up because we were talking off camera before the interview started. I told you this was a journey I went on several years ago that really, like this subject is honestly responsible for my personal development journey. This is where it all started with me, is learning I did not know anything about money several years ago. And so, there's a lot we can jump into with this, but let's start with this one because you made an interesting comment about getting emotionally detached from the money. And some of the dads listening may not be familiar with that concept and maybe scratching their heads. I know the first time I heard that was like, what are you talking about? Like it's money. There's not a separation of emotions and money, and I'm not attached to it, but it's a complex idea, right? That we don't generally talk about in education or anywhere else. So can you explain that concept a little bit, what you mean by getting emotionally detached from your money?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, especially having an audience of mostly dads, is that men socially typically aren't encouraged to think about their emotions and work through their feelings and understanding, the idea of having emotions toward anything is almost taboo.
Mhm.
So I get what you're saying. So let me explain. Often we had absorb we absorb or we inherit is a better word. So often we inherit the relationships with finances, whether we know that they exist or they don't, we inherit whatever our parents typically will pass down to us. Our parents, I'm going to screw my kids up. You're going to screw your kids up in certain ways. I'm trying not to. I really am. But there's going to be something that I do that I'm like, shoot, I never meant to do that or pass that to you. So we often inherit whatever our parents have passed to us in terms of relationship with money, how you relate to your money. Is it always a source of strain or stress? Is it a problem in the family? Do you openly talk about it? That's much more rare, but it does happen. Um, and often our parents haven't talked about it. So they're taking whatever their parents' relationship was. And if you want to go up a couple generations from me, I'm 41. So a couple generations before me was the Great Depression era. So that's often the relationship with finances that's getting handed generations, unless somebody like you've done, Brent, which I admire, you've taken the reins and said, I'm going to break this chain. We are no longer going to be scared to talk about money and figure out how it works. Like, it is just another piece of our lives, and we're going to have conversations about it. We're going to learn about it. And once you break those chains, you no longer passing whatever you inherited. Now you're telling a new money story. So really, like, our relationships with finances come often from money stories, whether we want to call them money stories or not, times when we were a child and we understand like what money represents to us. Our parents may just say simple things like, "Oh, those rich people, they buy their kid anything they want," right? And that will over time, that seed gets planted and grows into some type of fruit towards how we feel about money, good or bad fruit, but it will. Or like, if your parent constantly picks up every single penny and then make sure you got to save the penny and don't, that subconsciously is creating something in your mind, or more. Like for me, um, I can tell you one money story if that's helpful. I remember I grew up within a divorced family, so lived mostly with my mom, saw my dad every other weekend, but it happened pretty young. I remember though, when I was through school and in college, I came back for it was Christmas break. And I walked into my childhood home, which was too big at this point. It was just my brother and I. We were both out of the house. So my mom was the only one living in there. And I remember walking into the home, and it's winter in Boston where I lived. So it's cold. And I walk in, and there are these giant blankets just draped in doorways. And that didn't exist when I was a kid. So I'm wondering what's going on. And I peeled the blanket back to walk into my living room where my mother was sitting watching TV. And I was like, Mom, hey, what's happening with the blankets? What are we doing? And I learned when I walked into that room, it was noticeably warmer in that space. She was effectively cocooning herself into her room so that she could save on oil heat. So I remember, and that like triggers so many other memories of like being yelled at when I was a kid if I didn't turn the heat down when I left the house in the winter, all the things. And what that was doing was planting the seed of scarcity in my heart and in my mind about money, and that it's a finite resource, so you better be smart and save it. And it sent me on this journey of price tag checking and worry my whole life. Now some of that is healthy, like if you spend frivolously just for the sake of it, like you're going to waste money for no real reason. But there's other parts of it that are very unhealthy, where like you may be missing out on opportunities to invest in something that might make you more money down the road, or serve somebody in such a way that would change their life, but you missed the opportunity because you're too scared to part with your money because you're worried you won't get any more ever. So that's a long-winded answer, hopefully added some like color to what I mean when I say our relationships and our emotions toward money.
Well, and so these things develop in places we don't even think about. Uh,
You got it.
for a lot of faith-based people, right? We heard money is the root of all evil, which is completely taken out of context
Got
for
it.
scripture. But if you grew up in a faith-based community, that is likely something you heard a lot. And this idea that money is the root of all evil, right? Money is bad. Money is bad. That's what you're hearing every time. And so it creates this myth in your head that, well, people with money must be bad, right? They must have done something bad to get to all that money. They must have, right? Rich people having money is bad. People having money. And we start to tell ourselves this myth because that scripture is taken out of context so often. And so for a long time, that's I see rich people. I'm like, oh, they did some shady crap right there, man.
Right.
That's a shady bro.
Right. 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 Oh, I'm sorry about that. Jeez, I have it on focus too.
So, we don't understand. It's not something we're ever taught that there are actual mental and emotional stories we're told ourselves our whole lives that are programmed that really impact how we move into our adult lives and how we handle our finances. And as men, right, we worry like that's the number one thing I hear with guys is the minute their birth story is the minute I saw that child in my arms is how am I going to pay for all this? Right. So that's the minute it starts with, oh, they're beautiful. Oh my God, I'm going to like break them or something. And then he moves to, how am I going to pay for all this? Right. That's one of the top things guys worry about. We safety proof our house when our wife is pregnant. We're like, oh, I got to get rid of all these sharp corners. Oh my God, that's so dangerous. Right. And we start worrying about the how am I going to pay for this because we start buying things for the baby. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is expensive. But that is one of the number one fears of men, particularly when they become fathers, is how do we pay for all this? Right.
Got it.
Because most of us don't know. Like we don't know what we don't know about money. That was a huge shock for me. Is the first time I heard someone talk positively about money, I'm like, okay, sure. But then I started looking into it. I'm like, what you mean there's more than one type of income? What do you mean I actually have to do something with my 401k? What do you mean? Like it was such a mind-blowing experience because you don't know what you don't know. So we talked about some emotion attached to it. And that's something that, gentlemen, if you can like wrap your head around that you are telling yourself stories about money that can actually damage your ability to make money or to have money. If you take nothing else from that, we need to start right there for you guys because that alone will massively impact your life.
Got it. Right? You got it.
What do you tell your clients about these emotions and about the way they think about money?
Well, I recognize that people don't first come to me because they say to me, hey, I think I have an unhealthy relationship with my money. Like, I think I need some help. In the same way, people don't go to Jenny Craig because they're like, I think I emotionally eat and I need to work through that. No, they're like, I need to lose 20 pounds and a few inches on my waistline. Like, help me out. So people come to me asking for help with investments and like, I need help managing my money, investing it. I got cash flow. I can't figure out where all my money's going. I earn enough. I think I don't think I spend too much. Like where are we falling short? Also, I want to buy these things. I have these plans, this college bill, this stuff's coming up down the road. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to afford it. Like, can we come up with a roadmap? So yes, 100%. I'm doing all of that. So I often the conversations with clients are very like blocking and tackling, nuts and bolts on strategically, how are we using our money effectively? But what I am reminding them of, and hopefully they're catching, more is caught than taught with kids and adults, believe it or not. Hopefully what they're catching is that, and I will say this explicitly as well, but often in the conversations, how we talk about using certain dollars for certain things, what they're learning and catching is that, okay, if money's coming into my life, then I've worked hard to earn it. It's my job to assign jobs to each of these dollars I'm earning. Some of those jobs are for next week's mortgage payment or rent payment or whatever. That money's job is to sit safely and don't do anything. And that's okay. When you put money into a savings account, knowing there's a purpose behind it, you don't have to worry, am I missing out on investing that money instead? Should I be doing something differently? No, you gave that money a job. That's that money's job. And once you have enough money doing the job for that, whatever that job is, then it's a different job. And you assign it, you put it, and that's a different account and a different style of investing. But the mindset is like, oh, these are tools for me to use for different jobs. Like I have a hammer for a nail and I have a screwdriver for a screw. Not everything is, they say like, to a carpenter, everything's a nail. But you have certain jobs for your finances. And then as you assign that, so those are a lot of the conversations we may use that terminology, sometimes we don't, but that's really the mindset is thinking. Mindset is, okay, I earn this money and I have to give jobs to this money. Really, at the end of the day, I would say the highest, or I would say the most impactful lesson I've learned around money is knowing that if I'm trading my time for money the rest of my life, I will forever be chasing it and feeling unfulfilled. And that like blows me away. Like you talked about, wait, I have different incomes. So there's what's this 401k? What's it like? How does that work? The reality is like, I used to think hours in, payment out, hours in, payment out. And if that were true, and I hope dads are listening to this, because I'm sure there are many hardworking dads, but if that were true, hours worked and effort put out, then the roofers and the laborers of the world would be the wealthiest people in America, right? And I thought to myself, shoot, if that's not it, and then went down this real journey of like, well, what is it? It's really about understanding how to not trade time for money, and to do that, you have to have something that is either so valuable that people are willing to pay a lot of money for it. A great example is like a brain surgeon. There's not tons of them, and if you don't get the brain surgery, you die. So the outcome's really, really severe. So people are willing to pay a lot of money for you and your expertise. Or I tell my kids this, or you do a lot of something that's not necessarily very expensive, but you do a lot of it, like mowing lawns. People aren't going to pay you $800 to mow your lawn, but they may pay you $50 because for them, that hour and a half, 2 hours you spent is worth paying you 50 so they can earn more in their day job or whatever it is. So they say, okay, that's a fair trade of value. You mow my lawn. And then in my kids' minds, they're thinking, okay, if I just do something to take something off somebody else's plate, now I can earn income and that person's happy. This is a win-win. Rinse and repeat enough times. I have enough lawns. I can make enough money, right? But I think people get confused in somewhere in the middle where they think I should be doing this thing that the world doesn't necessarily perceive as super high value, but I should be paid a ton of money because I work really hard. And you just have to understand, like, how does the game of money work? Like, it's an exchange of value. So if you're doing things that the marketplace determines is $50 jobs, roughly, you can never charge $1,000 for that job. And if you do, you have to be in some really unique area and have a real good reason for it. Otherwise, you're like, no matter how hard you work, that's the value that the marketplace has put on that thing. So do more of it or get out and do something else. But you can't just get frustrated, which is what most people do, and spend 40 years grinding in that spot, wishing and hoping they had more money because they're frustrated. They put a lot of hours in, a lot of hard work in, and the outcome just isn't, the result isn't what they want. And they spend their life angry. They live for the weekends. They have Monday comes around and they're angry again. Like their 2 weeks vacation a year never feel like enough, right? People are crafting lives that they feel like they need to escape from. So my conversations with clients and people in my life is like, let's build a life you don't feel like you have to escape
First, don't ever talk to my daughters with the words $50 for a lawn.
from.
That on my child's head. Oh my gosh.
No, they mow my lawn for free. That's the cost of doing business. You live here, so you got to mow the lawn. I'm not paying you.
I'm 45 years old, man. Like $10 for a lawn was huge, and it was a big lawn. Inflation
Awesome.
sucked, right?
Inflation. There you go.
You said $50. Like I had a little throw up in my mouth, and I was like, no. That aside, there's a lot of insight there that took me a lot of work to figure out. Before we step farther, let me ask you, what's the best part about being a dad?
Wow, that's the best part about being a dad. I think the best part about being a dad is the responsibility and the honor of raising people to grow up and hopefully stand on your shoulders and do more than you could have ever asked or imagined, because of the groundwork that you did, right? Like, I think the greatest honor and the best joy of being a dad is to see your children grow and succeed in ways that you could not have even seen in advance. And you recognize like you played a part in that, but even that was out of your hands. Like you prepared them the best you could, and then you watch them grow and flourish. It's why I don't get upset when my kids get older. Parents will often ask, like, man, I wish I could turn back time. Like, it's going too fast, but man, it's such an honor and a joy to see kids get older for me, because to me, they're growing one step closer into that person they're created to be. So I think that's probably the coolest part and the best part about being a dad.
I love it. It's funny. People told me, they're like, just wait till your kids are teenagers. When they find out we're gonna have, like, people were telling me this before my first daughter was born. They're like,
Yeah.
just wait. I was like, no, I'm really excited. They're like,
Yeah.
just wait till they're teens, man. You're gonna have your hands full. It's not all as fun as this stuff. I was like, you understand? I was a youth minister for like 20 years.
I know
Teens
teens.
forte. This is what I get excited about. I enjoy teenagers. To me,
awesome.
They're just starting to become interesting at that point. So my oldest just turned 13. And like, I absolutely, like, it was the little years that got me, but it is fun I'm watching her as she's growing,
Mm-hmm.
she's starting to establish her own personality and traits, and, heavily influenced, right? But it's fun to watch. And I'm excited to see, like, I'm not in a hurry for them to grow up, but I'm excited
Sure.
to see the human beings they're going to become,
So cool.
what they're going to bring
Yes.
to the world. So yeah, I love that idea. Now, Matt, I have a double question here for you
Yeah.
so this is a two-part question. Okay.
Okay.
One of the things that I was absolutely fascinated with, when you and I were corresponding before the show, was the fact that you're spending time teaching your kids about money, because that's something that's near and dear to my heart. And I think it's something that dads should do. But first question is, for the dads listening who don't feel like they have a good head about money or understand the things, and we're now trying to say, oh, and you should be teaching your kids about finance and stuff, right? So help us with, for the dads who don't feel equipped to, because they don't know, right? They don't have that experience. They don't know themselves. How can they start that journey of educating themselves, but also bring their kids along, and how dads can generally just start having these conversations with their kids? So the second question is, how do you start teaching your kids about finance? And also, for the dads who don't feel like they're equipped to do that, how do they start becoming equipped and taking their kids on that journey with them? So we're answering for kind of both dads there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Good question. I think that dads, first off, you only need to be one step ahead of your children to be able to teach them something, really. And that's true in life. That's even true in my role. You don't need to be at the finish line of finances to be able to be qualified to educate children on how finances work. So you only need to be a step. So what I mean by that is, you can quite literally teach them tomorrow the thing you learned today. Before you've put it into practice, before you figured it out completely, if you understand it conceptually, you can go and teach it to them. And then you say, hey, we're going to figure this out together. Like, invite them in to the money story. I think that's really powerful. The most successful people, successful doesn't mean like the most money, but like the healthiest relationships with money, which means the most peace that they have in their life. These people that I talk to, the most successful, most peaceful people, are the ones, believe it or not, who really kind of grew up talking about money. If it wasn't with their family, they actively sought out people in their life to say, like, hey, how did you make that? How do you do that? How does it work? Right. So I think dads, inviting your kids into the money stories and money conversations without even doing anything specific changes their future relationship with money. Because what you just did was teach them, without teaching them, that money's not taboo to talk about. It's another tool we've been given, and let's figure out how to use it. It's no different than teaching them how to go out and build something. If you're a carpenter or a builder, like, you can just teach them that this is a thing and we're learning this thing and this is how you use this thing. And as I learn more, you're going to learn more. So that's what I would say. And then the fastest way as a dad to learn about money, if you don't know where to start, go to ChatGPT, use AI. I mean, it is a really powerful tool that if you're lost on where to talk, where to look, you just tell your ChatGPT, pretend I'm a financial advisor, or pretend I'm whatever you are, whatever the role you want. And I want to be able to articulate this concept to my child, or I don't understand how 401ks work. Can you give me the top three things I need to know about 401ks? And what are the three biggest downfalls? And then just learn both sides. I'm telling you, the prompts that you can put into ChatGPT are really, really powerful. And I even use them today because I think the farmer who didn't believe tractors were going to be a thing and they swore by the horse and plow, uh, they got left behind when tractors became a thing. So I recognize in my world, if I'm not leaning into AI and leveraging it for speed and accuracy, I'm going to be left behind. I even had a question earlier today that I used ChatGPT for. I wanted to like verify and articulate my answer in a really concise, easy to understand format. And I could have taken 30 minutes to kind of like map it out and write it out, but instead it took 30 seconds. And I said, hey, I'm a financial advisor. I've had a client asking me about 80 the tax law, tax code 83B. It's about like, well, it's about stocks. Like you get stocks into a company as like a startup. Anyway, um, I want to be able to articulate to them the three major points that could work in their favor, but I want to also tell me the three downfalls and any outlying areas that I may not be thinking about that I want them to be aware of in the event. Like that was my prompt. And it spit out this beautifully laid out, boom, 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 bullet. Like, and I'm like, yes, that's it. That's it. Yep, you got it. You got it. Now I have the benefit of being in the world. So I know the world. So I understand a dad might say, well, how do I know it's real? How do I know it's true? I can just tell you from experience of using these prompts a lot. If you use AI to say, I am this role, and then you give AI the context you want it to deliver an answer in, it does a really nice job of giving you some facts. So that's where I would start, dads, like, or anybody listening. That's the spot. And then take that, look at your own life. If you can apply it, and then sit down with your kids. It doesn't have to be more than 5 minutes, but I would say creativity follows commitment on that. So if you're worried about how are you going to teach them, how are you going to articulate it, just commit, do it. And then as you think about committing to it, you'll start to get creative on how you teach it. Like I use chocolate chips when explaining loans and interest rates. I didn't start out being like, oh, I got a great idea. I'm going to do interest rates with loans and I'm chocolate chips. Here we go. And now let me go do it. It was more like, okay, I got to teach my kids on debt and I teach them how rates work. How can I relate to them? Like I committed to teaching it and I was like, how can I make this relatable? Because like a bank and a 30-year note, and like that's not going to do anything for them. But they like chocolate, like I started to get creative. So creativity follows commitment.
And I love that. I know so many people who have misconceptions about when kids can start learning some of these things. And I know I started my kids, I don't know, the youngest one was 5 or 6 when we set up her investment account.
That's awesome.
I made some initial investments, but over the next year, we would sit together. I'd sit her on my lap and I'd tell her what this symbol was. And I'd explain why I was investing money in that. And I would show her the ups and downs and how they invest, right? And it was just a simple concept. This is what this symbol means. It's this company. And we did it because of this, which means it's going to, and it really didn't take long for the ideas of like capital gains versus dividends, or the idea of long-term yield versus short-term. Some of these concepts that like I didn't get at 40. Like, I had no idea when I actually took some time and learned and started explaining to my kids. I was amazed at how quickly and how young they were able to start wrapping their head around these ideas that I thought was complex, which just further proved to myself that it's like, oh, I had this negative connotation about money because I think this is complex. And they're like, oh, okay, Dad, that makes sense. I'm like, really? Took a lot more work for that to make sense for me.
So good. So there's one foundational principle in my family's life that really I think is the money house that gets built on this foundation. And really the thought is the money isn't ours, it's ours to steward. So it's ours to use responsibly. So if you have that mindset, we have what we have in our life is called we have a blessing account. In the Christian faith, it's a tithe, 10%. You can do more, but we call it a blessing account. You can call it a other people account. You can call it a generosity account. You can call it something else, whatever you want to call it. We have this savings account that's at a different bank. So like we have a Bank of America, red card, and then the blessing account is at a different account. It's a purple card, Ally. So no affiliation or anything. It's an easy online account that you can open in 5 minutes. So my kids know that that's the blessing card. And every time we're paid, 10% of our money goes into the blessing account. For us, it's to use how we feel like God's leading us to use it on things we think he needs us to use it on. And that's often people. But what I can tell you that has done to my children, and more importantly, their relationship with money, is that they recognize like this is good to give away because they see joy in people's eyes when like one story. This is not why we do it. So I'm not telling you this story because I think everybody should be chasing the thank yous. That's not generosity. That's selfishness disguised as generosity. But we went to IHOP. Of all places, it was because I couldn't get my children to brush their teeth regularly. I don't know what that is, but I'm like, I have 14 total times you can brush your teeth in a week. If you get above 12 or whatever it was, like you get to go to IHOP. We'll go to IHOP and we'll get pancakes, which is like the worst thing you probably should be doing for a toothbrushing contest. Anyway, a handful of my kids made it. They all didn't even make it. I'm like, guys, just brush your teeth twice a day. We're there anyway. We're at IHOP with our celebratory lunch, I think it was, but we're having pancakes. And it was my kids' idea when the bill comes around, they said, hey, let's use a blessing account. I'm like, okay. They wanted to leave the waitress a big tip. They liked her. They talked to her a bunch. It was their idea, which was really fun. So we basically doubled the bill. The tip was the same price that the bill was. And it was around Christmas time. And of course, the goal is to write it and leave. Like you're being generous because you feel like that's what you're called to do, not because you want to see people's reactions. Like I said, that's selfishness disguised as generosity. But of course, my kids had to go to the bathroom. Like one had to pee, and then the next had to pee, and then the next had to pee. And next thing I know, I'm standing outside the bathroom for like 12 minutes after we've already paid. And I see the waitress go over there and like gets the bill. And then I see her like get emotional. And her eyes darted to see if she could find us. Like, had we left? And of course we were peeing. So I'm standing there like, and she ran up to me, and some of my kids they got to witness this, which was super cool. Such a blessing. She came, ran over to me, gave me a hug and like, thank you so much. And then proceeded to tell us the story about how her purse was stolen a week ago and she had a bunch of money and she wasn't sure how she was going to get Christmas gifts for her family this year. And dad acts of generosity just gave her hope. And she was so grateful. And like that, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a reason my kids had to pee and we had to hear that story. But they got to participate in that. And they recognized firsthand, money is not evil. Money can really change lives for the better if you're stewarding it well. So I encourage everybody, and I don't care what the number is. It can be $10 a month. It can be $5 a month. It can be whatever it is, have a separate account where you say, this is exclusively for other people. This is not for us. This is for somebody else. Because when you so that's the discipline to giving. And then there's this spontaneity to it that when you're in line at your coffee shop and you decide, hey, I got $12 in that account right now. I'm going to buy coffee for the person behind you. And you feel that impulse, that tug on your heart. You go and do it. And you don't have to think twice. It's in there. Subconsciously, what's happening behind the scenes is that psychologists would say there's two root emotions, fear and love. And you recognize that like the desire to hoard is a fear-based emotion. You don't want to part with your money is a fear-based emotion. To generously give something is a love-based emotion. Those two emotions can't coexist in your heart and in your mind. So when you are freely giving something that once had its hold on you emotionally, you are simultaneously, yes, anchoring joy because it feels good to give, and you're rewiring your makeup to say like, I no longer want to hoard this thing. You can't do both. So that act of having a blessing account and giving that money away is quite literally rewiring your psyche and your relationship toward money for the better. It's a super cool experience.
Guys, let me throw in a totally unrelated, but related, as in I'm not related to them, pool. There is a book called Money Ninja by Mary Nin. It's available on Amazon. It's like 12 or 13 bucks. It is age appropriate down to about 3 or 4 years old. It covers this entire concept. You go through the story, and this money ninja is making money. He's starting a business. He's investing. He's saving. He's sharing that money with a classmate who is in the hospital, needs some help. Right? It covers all these concepts we've talked about not only making money, but also using that money to help other people, using that money to invest and save and do more profitable things with. It is a super, super kid-friendly introduction to show them there is a bigger concept to money than money in, money out.
Wow.
So it was it was the first book I bought for my kids when I started talking about money. I happened to find it, and I was like, "This is brilliant! This is the conversation starter."
I never heard it. I'm gonna get it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like 12 or 15 bucks. It's this tiny, it's a square, very vividly bright picture. She has a whole series, but Money Ninja is my favorite.
So cool.
So
that's
guys,
awesome.
There's a great entry point right there, just to introduce your kids to the concept that there is more to money than you make it, you spend it. Right? It's a big concept made for little people, and you'll enjoy it too because it's fun.
Really good.
Matt, is there a place where people can connect with you to learn more about these concepts, to maybe they need some help with themselves and understanding their own finances? Where can people find you?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. Well, here's what I will say. Anybody in the audience, I would encourage you, if any of this resonated, follow me on Instagram. That's where I post most of my stuff. It's just my name, at Matt Morizio. And if you DM me, Red Hat, let's say the name of this podcast, if you send me that DM, I'll send you a for free. I'm not getting paid on it. It's a course that I created on changing your relationship with money, going from scarcity to abundance, that really does show some practical, actionable tools in there, as well as some, like what we talked about, higher level concepts. And it's maybe 5 to 8 minute videos. So it's not like you're going to have to invest 6 hours of your life. But I'll send you that link to the course. It's housed on a platform for a company called The Ideal Life. And I'll send you the link. I think you just have to put your email in. That's all it costs, is an email. And I'll be happy to send it to you. So I would say that if you have questions or wonder the next steps, follow me on Instagram, send me a DM with Red Hat, and I will send you that link, and happy to have a conversation with what's happening in your life specifically.
All right. And gentlemen, as always, if you're having a difficult time connecting with the people who matter most in your life, if you're struggling with, you pursued maybe your profession or whatever and have a rough connection with some of those people who make life valuable for you, be sure and connect with me over at purposedrivenmen.com. There's a little bubble down in the corner. Let me know. Let's have a conversation. Maybe my Relationship Titans program is right for you. If it's not, I know several other relationship coaches also that I can point you in their direction that I work with. And let's fix those relationships, because if those relationships aren't thriving, then the rest of your life is not thriving either. Matt, if our dads who are listening today didn't catch anything else, what is the most important thing you want them to hear today before we end the show?
I think I would like dads to know that we didn't even discuss this, but I would want them to hear that they matter. They matter more in their kids' lives than they may even realize. And you can screw a lot up as a parent, but if your kids hear, I'm proud of you, and they hear, I love you, and you say those words out loud to your children, you can mess a lot of other things up and still get it right. So I would encourage dads, if the emotions aren't your thing, just use those words. I love you and I'm proud of you. Say those words to your kids over and over, and promise you can screw the other stuff up, and things will still turn out pretty well.
Matt, I appreciate you being on the show today and talking with us about some finance and stuff. I know this is a hugely uncomfortable subject for a lot of men. We don't like to open up about our finances. We don't like to be, yeah, I mean, it's just all kinds of uncomfortable. And guys, hopefully this conversation has helped open up that conversation a little bit for you. Like I said, my financial situation was a mess for years, and I didn't even know it was a mess because I didn't know what I didn't know. So hopefully this is a good starting point for some of you guys. Talk to your kids about finances. Set them up better than you were set up by teaching them the things that you didn't know. I think Bruce Lee originally said that quote, right? Don't give your kids what you didn't have. Teach them what you didn't know. I think it's actually Bruce Lee quote. But
awesome.
Matt, thanks for being on to have the conversation. Guys, as always, thanks for joining us today on Dad Hat Shenanigans Podcast, a community of dads navigating life's challenges together. Until next time, laugh, learn, and live the dad life.